Hello my fellow lifeforms, welcome back. It has been such a long time since my last video. I apologize so much, I've been so lazy. With Halloween popping up here within the next week, I thought it would be cool to do a tutorial video on how to make a burlap mask. A couple weeks ago, I wanted to do a burlap mask, or like a scarecrow, you know, and all my siblings are going to be scarecrows as well, and we all have different types of masks. And before building, I was all over YouTube and the internet looking at good tutorials on how to put together a burlap mask decently. This was the first one I built. This one is a little bit more complicated, so we're not going to go into detail with this, but this is the first one I made. Got this whole nasty teeth thing going on. These are the eye holes, obviously. I'm not going to put it on because it's very itchy. Another thing to wear is like a ski mask, a very thin ski mask like this one. You know, with just like the eye hole there. That'll really help with the itching of the burlap. That one's my youngest brother's. I'm the eldest boy. For the middle boy, I built this mask. And if you want a tutorial on how to do these masks, Obelisk Productions actually has a good tutorial on how to create a custom fit mask to your face. This one's a little bit more extreme. It's a lot bigger than the one they show in that video, but it's the exact same process. This is going underneath this burlap mask. This one is a little bit more open because I wanted to show the detail in this. You would put the skull mask on first, and this would go up in there, and this is kind of what it would look like. So that's kind of cool. It's going to be, he's going to have a noose around his neck to kind of cinch it tighter to his face, but again, I'm not putting it on because it's crazy itchy. I got pretty much done with mine yesterday, and this is the one I am going to be wearing. Kind of like this evil bunny looking thing. First I want to go over what you're going to need for this build. The number one material you're going to need for this is burlap. Okay, I got this off a website, a fabric website, I forget what it was called, but it's really not that hard to find. Just make sure you get the right measurements. I bought a lot more than I needed. Like as you can see, I have a ton, okay? And this is more than enough. You really only need about a section this big to make a mask. The next thing you're going to need is some way of stitching it together. The best place to find this material is at your local craft store, something like AC Moore or Michael's or whatever you guys have wherever you are. And you need a bunch of just twine. This is one bundle I got. This is what I mostly use for the stitching. Sometimes you want a thicker string. That's why I got this one. This is more of a twine. Some areas I wanted it to be darker. I wanted the string to like really stand out. So I bought a bunch of this stuff and a much thinner one. And this is kind of like a wax string. I don't know exactly what this is called. Imitation leather is what it's called, actually. The black is what I used for like the very darker detailing, you know, obviously in this mouth area, on the eyes. For example, on this one here, I did, you know, a bunch of the stitching in the mouth and on the eye with all that black leather. So those are the materials you're going to need. Now we're going to need to talk about the tools. Obviously, scissors, big thing. Another thing that's really going to help is some type of needle, preferably rather wide. The eye of it is very wide. So I have this one for the black imitation leather, and then I have this one, this much thicker eye needle for the much thicker rope, or twine, whatever you want to call it. Another thing you're really going to want is hot glue. Okay, this is really going to help when you get started on building the mask. And the last thing I'm going to be using is a heat gun. Okay, this is for the final process. This is for the detailing and the wearing down of the burlap to make it look like it's really old, grungy, and gross. Another thing that is also going to help you a whole lot is if you have something to build off of. Because unless you have something to actually build on, it's going to be a lot harder to figure out the size you need to be. So I have this head cast of my friend that I have been using to build on to get the right size for the head. And if you guys want a tutorial on how to build one of these, just go ahead and send me a comment, or you know, just thumbs up, and I will do another video on how to create this type of head cast. Okay, well without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the tutorial. Okay, once you have the section of burlap you're going to be using, what I found best is I would lay the burlap on the table, and then I would put the head of the dummy face down into the burlap, and then you would pull this across the top, almost like you're wrapping a present. Okay, and you want it to almost, you don't want it to overlap too much, but you want to overlap enough to where if we use hot glue right here, it's going to be able to stick. Once you get it figured out where you want it to be, I'm going to take my hot glue and I'm just going to put one, I'm not going to do a line, I'm just going to do one little dot of hot glue right here, just enough to hold this together. Nice and tight. I'm going to use something to pat down that hot glue with to get it to make sure it sticks. I'm just using a piece of foam. Got that? So now we want to fold these in like this. I'm keeping the shape of the head too. Okay, and once I get that where I want it, I'm going to kind of put it in my lap here for a second. Turn, you guys can see me. Once I got that overlapping, again, I'm going to take my hot glue, just one little dot right there, and then stretch this over top and get that to hold. And again, use my foam to pat it in and make sure it holds. This is all custom. Like I'm just doing this as I go. You can do this however you want. I'm just showing you how to get the shape that you want. So once you got that back sealed up, you go ahead and figure out how you want the top to fold in. Again, using only dots. Don't use lines. And I'll talk about that in a bit as to why we do that. And always pat it in with something. It'll make it hold a lot better. Don't use your fingers because you'll burn yourself. This is how I got that bunny effect with mine. See how it does that? Kind of cool. Same way. But I don't want this to look like that. I'm going to actually fold these in. And before you glue it, here's another thing. Test to see what you want it to look like first. Don't just go in guns ho and gluing everything down. Like, for example, I got it like this, and I want to see what it looks like if I fold these both over on themselves. That's what it looks like. I don't like that. That looks rather ridiculous. So maybe if I fold this one down and this one down. See, that already looks a lot better. If I had started gluing that before I figured that out, I would have been in big trouble. I want to point out, see this area here? I eventually am going to have this fold down further, but this is not enough space for this hot glue. Because one thing, why I've been telling you not to do lines of hot glue, just little dots, is because when you're going through and stitching this together, if you hit a patch of hot glue, the needle's not going to want to go through it. It's going to get stuck, and you're going to have to like try to pry and force it through. Either that or find a new spot to place your needle. So I'm just gonna, when I start sewing, is when I'm gonna fold this down further to make that fold down. So once you get it where you think you want it, just go and take a look at it. Hold it off out here so you can kind of see a rough idea of what it's gonna look like. I think that looks pretty good. So now we're gonna go through and we're gonna figure out where the eyes are gonna be. Now on my dummy, which makes it easy because here's his nose right here, which means his eyes are somewhere right here. That's easy, but let's say you're using a football or like something else that you don't have that visual. What you're probably going to have to do is put it on your head and actually feel where your eyes are, and maybe take a marker and mark where that is. But for here, I know it's right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take either my scissors or my X-Acto or my box cutter. I like using my box cutter, and we're just going to make a nice cut downward and across. A nice X mark. We're going to take our fingers and we're going to pry it open. Eye hole number 1. Now this isn't the size it has to be. We're going to probably make it bigger later, but that's just to get where it is for now. Okay, so now is the fun part. What we're going to do is we're going to start stitching. Okay, and we're going to start with the eyes. Okay, and this is how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to take my needle with the smaller eye and this first amount of twine, and take me on a good decent length, about maybe 3 feet. And for those of you who don't know how to use a needle, obviously you take your string or whatever you're using and you stick it through the eye, and you do not tie a knot. Okay, I knew someone who was tying a knot on these, aka me, and it was making it a lot harder to get through the material. So what you're going to do is just put it through and get it probably about that much out, and fold it back like this, and that's what you're going to be using. Okay, you're not going to tie a knot here to keep it on there, because all it's going to do is get in the way. And we're going to make this one smaller than the other. Actually, hold on, I don't want to copycat my other. Alright, we're going to make this one bigger than the other one. So we're going to take our knife, we're just going to kind of trim outward on the sides and downward. Okay. And another thing, this is where it gets messy. All this stringy stuff gets everywhere. That looks about right. We'll go with that. Okay, so now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go maybe about a quarter of an inch out from the actual center of the eye, or from the edge of the eye. Come through here, pull through, and then make a knot right there. And secure that down. I double knot it just in case. Okay, so once we got that there, all we're going to do now is sew all the way around the eye. Okay, now that you can probably see better, bring this a little closer. What I'm doing is I'm going inside and then going from the underside out. Okay? And then we're going to pull us through. So what this does is it keeps all this hairy stuff wrapped together. Okay? See this? So I'm not like going in and out like this. I'm going in circles around the center. And also remember, this doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Scarecrows are supposed to look poorly made and stitched together rather ugly, you know, especially if you're going for a creepy look. We got that all the way around to where it looks something like that. We're going to want to tie it off. And you're just going to do that to the second eye as well. Get it to the size you want, and you're just going to do the same thing. So now once we have that done, we have all these little things coming off, and like pieces of burlap. And this stuff can get stuck in your eye, so we don't want that there. All that hairy stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our scissors, and we're just going to cut it away. Looks a lot better. Okay, none of that's going to be getting in anyone's eye. Alright, so now we got the eye done, we're going to go ahead and stitch up the top and where there's supposed to be stitching around here to make it look like it's being held together. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take the same material before, and I'm going to find where I want it to start. So probably about right here. So I'm going to come in through here, and just like we did the eye, I'm going to make a knot first. Okay, and now all we're going to do is follow this seam, stitching it down to this bottom layer of burlap, all the way until we either run out of string or until we want to stop. That is our first seam running down the side of the mask. And we're going to do that to all of them. All these seams I got up here. This one here, all the way around. You don't have to only stitch where there's a line. You can stitch anywhere you want. For example, let's say I want something that almost looks like a scar coming down here. All I got to do is come right here in the eye and then just start stitching together. I don't have to, one thing you can do is if you can't visualize it, draw it. And don't draw a solid line, draw little dots where you want it to go with a marker to help you visualize where you want it to go. And this will give it a like that stitched together scar look that burlap masks have. Doing this also helps with sizing it. For example, let's say that the person's head that I'm putting this on, which her head is smaller than this dummy, you can do this to size it. And how you can do that is you would take a section of the burlap and fold it over itself to create it tighter, and then stitch that together and making the mask tighter. And that'll help sizing it to your head. So now you got that effect. And you can do this wherever you want, or as many as you want. For example, on this one, I have it going everywhere. All the stitching is just, there's not really a seam there, it's just my interpretation on what I want the burlap to do. Okay, so once you get that done, this color isn't very flattering. Like, this doesn't look very creepy for a scarecrow. So that's where the heat gun comes in. What we're going to do is we're going to heat gun the burlap and give it a burned look. Okay, so you might want to do this outside, because in the event of the burlap catching on fire, I will probably not be best to do that inside. So this isn't obviously done yet. I'm just using this for an example. It will eventually become a mask. But until then, I'm just showing you so I can do a rough tutorial on how to do this. But so you have your burlap mask, finished or not, doesn't matter. We're going to take our heat gun, and we're just going to let it heat up for a little bit. And then we're just going to very gently start burning the burlap. And what I like to do is I like to be heavy around the edges and the seams to make that look even more burnt. Yeah, already looking grungy. I'm going to do it all these flat surfaces. You don't leave anything untouched by the heat gun. Some areas, go ahead and burn it more. Give it depth, give it character. Do whatever you want, just be careful. This is the most dangerous part of this, is because you're playing with fire here, basically. If you're under 18, I would suggest getting an adult to supervise or help you with this. Get it close, get it far away. I'm going to do this to the whole mask, whole thing. Look at that. Look at that difference. You go from really cheesy looking to more real scarecrow-esque looking burlap. And you can make it darker. Again, be very careful. If this lights up, burlap is very flammable. So either have water ready. I have a spigot right over there I can use just in case. You're just going to come through and do the detailing. And do this around the whole mask. Alright, so there you have it. That is my basic tutorial on how to create a decent looking burlap mask. Again, like, it's not that hard. It just takes a little bit of creativity, and you can get something that looks really good. Again, don't leave it like this. Don't leave it looking like this. Give it character. Burn it. Use paint. Make it look bloody. Do something to it to make it look not like this. This is not good. Okay? Give it character. And then once you're done, you got something that you can be proud of and really scare some people with. I cannot wait for Halloween. Can't wait to scare the living crap out of some kids. So this is Elias Chrisley, and peace out.